Joe Biden pardons Leonard Peltier, who Joe Biden is a man who I agree with very little that he's done in life, let alone his presidency. This is one, though, that he got right. So let's see what the video says here.
In one of his final acts as president, Joe Biden commuted the sentence of indigenous activist Leonard Peltier.
I make no apology. I've issued more individual pardon and commutation than any president in U.S. history.
Leonard Peltier was a leader in the American Indian Movement, an organization that worked for better health care, education, and jobs for Native and Indigenous people living on or off reservations. Peltier was convicted of aiding and abetting murder in the 1975 deaths of two FBI agents during a shootout on South Dakota's Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. He was given 2 consecutive life sentences. Despite being in prison for almost 50 years, he maintains that he was not guilty. For decades, communities have rallied to have his conviction overturned. Even the prosecutor who helped put Peltier behind bars wrote on his behalf asking for the sentence to be commuted. President Biden wrote in a statement, tribal nations, Nobel Peace laureates, former law enforcement officials, including the former U.S. attorney whose office oversaw Mr. Peltier's prosecution and appeal. Dozens of lawmakers and human rights organizations strongly support granting Mr. Peltier clemency, citing his advanced age, illnesses, his close ties to and leadership in the Native American community, and the substantial length of time he has already spent in prison. Peltier's conviction is not overturned by this presidential action. Commuting his sentence lessens the prison time and allows Peltier to be released.
Okay. So basically, he's getting out, right? It doesn't say much for those who don't know. Leonard Peltier has pretty much been a political prisoner, right? He is alleged to have aided and abetted killing two feds in the middle of some kind of really it was a showdown over who's going to have access to these resources, and the federal machine typically just doing what it did. And he's been in there since 1975. I'm born in 1985. So he's been in there for the entirety of my life and then some. So he's done roughly 50 years. Uh, Rather he did it or not, I don't really think even matters at this point. He is a pillar. Like what he represents for the Native American community is on par, I believe, with like a Malcolm X kind of thing. So for him to be released is really great for them and will be very healing and meaningful for them. And I think that's great. And hopefully, I know he's in ailing health. So they're really not doing him much of a favor. Actually, he's like not projected to uh, live much longer at this point. And he's been fighting for the entire time he's been in prison to be released. So that in of itself is heroic and admirable. And as to our opinions on if he did it or not, well, that you can look into that on your own time. I say this though, for those who are of an indigenous background, um, I would say uh, you should say miigwech to your creator, sustainer. Uh, there's something to be appreciated and valued in this. There's been a long fight for this man's freedom and continue to push the agenda forward. Out of all of us in this American cocktail or quilt sewed together of many different squares, um, the Native American community or indigenous community tends to catch hell and goes through a lot and is really left unspoken about, untended to, unrecognized. Um, and I think that's tragic. At the same time, this is something to celebrate in that regard. Take it, use it as a momentous occasion. Propel yourselves forward. And I say to you, like I've said to others, I think it's beyond the scope. of ethnic divisions at this point. I also would encourage you to get beyond the blood quantum, and the that whole divisionary tactic within the Native American world, and really get to the heart of the issues that are affecting not only you but all of us who inhabit this soil. And I encourage you to join the movement as an ICANNer, which Leonard Peltier most certainly is. As a man who lived and breathed ICANN and never stopped fighting until he won. So salute to him. Great things coming down the pike. The end of one term and the beginning of another, the end of one season and the beginning of another. It's just a time in the universe in general right now of change, of growth, of optimism, of currency, going through and flowing throughout the universe and throughout the world. Make sure that you get yours.